Chapter 2. The Forest Chase. The whispering bamboo forest lay shrouded in twilight, the moon casting ghostly beams through the canopy. Mist clung to the ground like a pale serpent, winding through the trunks and obscuring the uneven forest floor. The scent of wet earth mixed with the faint, coppery tang of orc blood. Jailee Lynxian stood still, breath steady, heart racing. The name echoed in her mind. Oser, the warlord whose death had ended the Orcan Wars, the name that haunted Kattan war legends. If he's alive, the Kattan houses are in more danger than they realize. The roots of the dead orc had already absorbed his corpse, but the memory of his final whispered word lingered. She sheathed her sword and adjusted her mask. The mana in the forest vibrated under her feet. Orcs were still out there, searching for her. They wouldn't find her unless she wanted them to. Jailee moved through the bamboo with effortless grace, placing each step with calculated precision. Her time in the Lynx monastery had taught her how to read the forest's rhythm and blend into its heartbeat. Each breath matched the pulse of the wind. Each stride danced with the sway of the bamboo. Behind her, distant footsteps broke the natural harmony. More of them. Persistent brutes. Jailee ducked beneath a low branch and darted into a denser thicket. The mana lines she'd laid during her flight earlier tugged at her senses. Ahead, the ground sloped downward, leading to the mossy stones of an ancient shrine. The orc's guttural snarls grew louder. "Good. Follow me, fools." Jailee slid down the slope, boots barely disturbing the leaf litter. She reached the shrine and crouched behind a fallen pillar, her back pressed against the cool stone. Carved into the weathered surface was the image of a Lynxian ancestor, eyes half-lidded in meditative calm. She whispered a prayer to the spirit. "Guide my strike, hide my step." Mana answered her call. The shadows thickened, wrapping around her like a protective cloak. The orcs arrived moments later. 5 this time, heavily armed and glancing around with wary eyes. One bore a scar across his snout. Another's tusks were splintered from some past battle. They gripped their axes and maces tightly, sniffing the air. "She's close," one of them growled, nostrils flaring. His gaze scanned the shrine, lingering on the moss-covered pillar. Jailee remained motionless. The scarred orc gestured toward the pillar. "Check behind there." 2 of them advanced. Jailee tightened her grip on the dagger concealed beneath her cloak. As the orcs rounded the pillar, she struck. She slid her blade into the first orc's throat, then spun, using his falling body as cover. The second orc raised his axe. Jailee darted to his side, slammed her elbow into his jaw, and slashed his hamstring with a precise downward cut. He roared in pain and collapsed. The remaining 3 charged. Jailee leaped backward, landing on the shrine's central platform. She tapped her foot against the stone. Mana surged from the contact, racing through the ancient grooves etched into the shrine floor. The ground trembled. Thick roots burst from the soil, twisting upward to entangle the attackers. The orcs swung their weapons wildly, but the enchanted roots held firm, tightening around limbs and torsos. Jailee descended the steps toward the writhing orcs. "Who sent you?" she asked softly. The scarred orc snarled. "You'll get nothing from me, witch." Jailee knelt beside him and placed her fingers on his temple. The dark mana that had poisoned the other orc still lingered in the air, a faint taint beneath the forest's natural mana. "Who leads your war band?" she asked again. The orc's eyes glazed, his lips trembled. "The Lion of War." Jailee's pulse quickened. "Oser?" A slow nod. "Where is he?" The orc's breath came in shallow gulps. "He moves toward Jagar. He seeks the city's heart." "Jagar." one of the oldest and largest Kattan cities, a vital stronghold if war returned. Jailee stood. The orc groaned and slumped forward, the roots tightening until his chest no longer rose. Jagar, the war begins there. She turned and vanished into the mist, heading toward the only person who could stop it, Commander Eileen. Across the Kattan plains, Lord Shin knelt beside the twisted body of one of his scouts. Blood pooled around the soldier's midsection, seeping into the trampled grass. The rest of the patrol lay scattered across the hillside, their bodies broken and lifeless. Baku approached, breathless from his own skirmish. "We found no survivors, sir." Shin stood and wiped his sword clean. His fur, naturally sleek and dark, was matted with sweat and dirt. "This wasn't a random attack," he said. He pointed to the orcish war patterns cut into the corpse's skin. "They marked them." Baku's eyes widened. "A message?" Shin nodded. "They're hunting, testing us. And if they're sending messages—" He looked toward the horizon where distant fires painted the night sky with orange streaks. "It means their main force isn't far." Baku's grip tightened on his spear. "What do we do?" "Get the fastest rider to Jagar. Commander Alien needs to know what's coming." "What about us?" Shin sheathed his sword. "We track the bastards and slow them down however we can." He crouched, placing a hand on the earth. "The land remembers where they've passed." Mana flowed from his fingertips into the soil. The ground trembled, revealing faint glowing tracks leading northwest. "Jagar," Shin murmured. He stood and signaled to his troops. "Move out. We've got prey to find." Jagar stood like a sentinel at the crossroads of the Kattan Empire. Built in concentric circles, its walls glimmered with inlaid jade runes designed to channel protective wards. Stone towers stretched toward the sky, each topped with a bronze statue of a legendary hero. Lanterns swayed gently in the night breeze, casting pools of golden light onto cobblestone streets. Tamara Tigran sat cross-legged beneath the largest of these statues in the temple garden. Her staff rested across her knees, its metal bands cool to the touch. Her eyes were closed, her breathing steady. She felt the pulse of the earth beneath her, the deep, resonant hum of stone, soil, and root. Something stirred beneath that natural rhythm, a tremor, faint but undeniable. "Tamara," came Xanar's voice from behind her. "We've got company." Her eyes opened. The tremor was stronger now. "Wrong." She rose, gripping her staff. "Where?" "South Gate. Scouts just came in and they're talking about orcs. Lots of them." The earth beneath her feet shifted, sending another tremor through her bones. "They're not just talking," Tamara said softly. "They're already here.